Hello everyone, I'm Brazen Eagle and thank you for joining me here. So today, we have an updated story regarding Jeffrey Younger and his fight against his ex-wife, who is forcing their son to become a girl. So, jury rules against dad trying to save his 7-year-old from gender transition. So from Dallas, Texas, of all places, October 21st, a jury in Dallas, Texas has ruled against Jeffrey Younger, the father who is trying to protect his 7-year-old son, James, from chemical castration via gender transition. This means James' mother, Dr. Anne Georgulas, will be able to continue transitioning James into Luna, and now has full authority to start him on puberty blockers and eventually cross-sex hormones. The jury's decision likely means that Mr. Younger will be required to affirm James as a girl, despite his religious and moral objections, and will also be forced to take a class on transgenderism. It's not enough to see his son being forced to transition into a girl, but no, Jeffrey needs to take a class on transgenderism as well. With a consensus of 11 out of 12 jurors, the jury decided not to grant Mr. Younger sole managing conservatorship over his 2 twin boys. They voted that the current joint managing conservatorship should be replaced by a sole managing conservatorship, but that Mr. Younger should not be that person. Judge Kim Cooks will read her ruling on possession, child support, and Dr. Georgulas' other requests at 1:30 CST on Wednesday. Mr. Younger and Dr. Georgulas were in court last week fighting over custody and decision-making abilities for James and his twin, Jude. Mr. Younger argues his ex-wife is transitioning James against the boy's will. Dr. Georgulas, who brought the lawsuit, was asking Mr. Younger's position schedule be altered to decrease overnight stays and to force his visits with the boys to be supervised. Dr. Georgulas brought the original modification suit to the court and did not request a jury trial. Mr. Younger, in his counter petition, asked for a jury trial. Since Mr. Younger requested the jury trial, the jury ruled on his specific request for sole managing conservatorship, and the judge ruled on all other aspects of the petition as brought by Dr. Georgulas. She was also asking that Jeff be forbidden from calling his son James his given and legal name, and that he be prohibited from bringing James around people who do not affirm James as a girl. Mr. Younger was asking to be granted sole managing conservatorship of the boys, meaning that he would have complete authority over medical, psychological, and other decision-making for the boys. The jury did rule that one of the parents should be sole managing conservator, but that it shouldn't be Mr. Younger because they gave no reasons. Before this case, Dr. Georgulas had complete authority over psychological care decisions for the boys. She was required to inform Mr. Younger of her decisions, but he did not have any say in her choice of care. Last week, the arguments revolved around James' diagnosis of gender dysphoria, which is made up. Fake and made up, I should add. Medical records recommending he begin the process of preparing for puberty blockers, and expert testimony about the risks and alleged benefits of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Mr. Younger is worried about Dr. Georgulas forcing a lifetime of misery on their son. Transgender identifying individuals, even when encouraged in their confusion, suffer from more psychological issues than the general population, have shorter lifespans, and are more likely to commit suicide, according to the Mayo Clinic. Possible side effects of feminizing cross-sex hormone therapy are a blood clot in the deep vein or in a lung, high triglycerides, a type of fat in your blood, gallstones, weight gain, elevated liver function tests, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, infertility, high potassium, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease when at least 2 other cardiovascular risk factors are present, and excessive prolactin in the blood, or a condition in which a non-cancerous tumor of the pituitary gland in the brain overproduces the hormone prolactin. Expert witnesses testified to a child's inability to fully comprehend the potential side effects of such therapy, such as permanent infertility, inability to ever naturally engage in sexual relations, and a decreased lifespan. On Friday, protesters called on Texas lawmakers to pass legislation making it illegal for anyone under 18 years of age to begin a medical transition. They argue that children cannot fully understand the lifelong consequences of their decisions, and parents should not be allowed to make this decision for their children. Currently, there aren't any U.S. laws that restrict the use of puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones or outline a minimum age of administration. Dr. Georgulas testified today James and Jude are not actually biologically related to her. They were created through in vitro fertilization, and the couple used an egg donor. She isn't even related to the kids. And I assume this is James here. Yeah, this is James and Jeffrey Younger. This is insane. Now, like I said before, I've covered this earlier, but this is merely an update to the story. But do you see from this article that Jeffrey Younger and men in general in this country and across, I would say, a good chunk of Western civilization, they have no rights or say in how their children can and will grow up? Jeffrey Younger has no parental rights and is being punished for trying to save his son from his ex-wife. He will have to see his son be forced to take puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, be forced to call his son Luna if he sees him, and Mr. Younger will also have to watch as his son grows up struggling with his identity. Can you imagine just watching your son do that? Especially like in middle school or something, where even just for regular children, they have all sorts of issues. But a transgender child that was forced to go through hormones, that child is going to be really screwed up. But like this article mentions, transgender individuals suffer from much more psychological issues than the population at large. And the suicide rate, while it doesn't tell you on LifeSite, the suicide rate for transgender people is at around, or a little bit above, 40%. That's a huge percentage. This woman, Dr. Anne Georgulas, is going to ruin James Younger's life. He's 7 years old. He's probably soon to be 8. He has no concept of what life is really like. James probably just wants to play with toys and watch cartoons. He's 7. But, he also most likely just wants to make his father and his supposed mother happy. But the mother doesn't care about him or his future. Dr. Anne Georgulas isn't even related to James, and yet has full authority over him. I can't confirm this, but it sounds like this woman, Anne Georgulas, was too old to have kids and will do anything to have a daughter now, even if that means literally, chemically castrating a young boy that she isn't even related to. This sounds like the plot of a terrible movie. But, of course, this is Clown World. This woman needs to have, let's say, an accident. If she's going to ruin this young boy's life in the pursuit of her just wanting to have a daughter no matter what, then I have no sympathy for her if she finds herself troubled, we'll say. If everything goes ahead and this boy James starts taking puberty blockers, then there are two major things we need to watch out for. Of course, the first one is how James will grow up. But the other important thing we must watch is the perspective of his twin brother Jude. Jude will be extremely important in telling James's story and what happens to him. Jude will watch the struggle that James will be forced to go through. But you know what? Tell me again how we live in a patriarchy when a biological father, who's done, as far as we know, no wrong things, has no say over his biological sons. Anyways, events like this, it could be Jeffrey Younger, it could be someone else. But events like these will continue to pop up as time progresses. The crazy train has no brakes, and unless something or someone puts a stop to this, it's only going to continue. I hear people complaining that, 2019, America's screwed up, the society's screwed up, but They offer no solutions. They don't want to think of solutions. They just want to complain, but there is no pushback. The only way this stops is if there's pushback. But you know what? Until then, thank you very much for watching. I'm Brazen Eagle, and I hope you have a great day.